Next question, and Ben, you've spoken a bit to this, as has Colette, but what can regulators learn from each other? Does having different mandates make it hard to draw comparisons, or are there lessons to be learned?
I think it'd be
interesting. And do you want to start?
Sure. I think it'd be interesting to hear Colette's views on this as a former regulator in a variety of roles. I think absolutely there are things that regulators can learn from each other and observe in each other, and I've talked about some things from the UK and Australia. I think one observation that I found very interesting, in the UK, Ofgem sets the rules and then applies the rules, and I think the OEB is the same. In Australia, the AER does not set the rules. That's a different body called the AEMC. And I think there are different views on this, and some people think it's good process for those two bodies to be separate. But what I found is, if the regulator can't set the rules but simply applies them, it's maybe a bit harder for the regulator to really be a stakeholder in the sector and really drive change, identify issues like the energy transition, for example, which are going to have an impact on the framework. And it's harder to innovate, right, if you can't actually change the rules, if you're simply stuck with applying them. So I do think those different kind of constructs in different jurisdictions can have actually a quite fundamental impact on the flexibility of the regulator to operate, and therefore actually perhaps subconsciously how the regulator thinks and how much the regulator thinks of itself as actually in the bus with everybody else trying to get to the same direction.
And I agree with thank you, Christine. I agree with everything Ben said, and so we've been adding to this really robust list of attributes for the top quartile regulator. Another one I will put a pin in here is the imperative that in an effort to strive for continuous improvement and continuous learning, that the top quartile regulator is leaning in to his or her colleagues around the world. I mentioned at the top of our time together how much I greatly valued our relationship with the Canadian regulators and the Canadian energy regulatory community writ large. We've learned so much from each other. We've traded a few leaders, in fact, across the border from time to time. We've learned so much from our peers in bilaterals and cooperatives, in roundtables around the world. And it's critical that the top quartile regulator be committed to that, and to be committed to being challenged in a very healthy way to do better. We have a saying in the South, I'm from Arkansas originally, as you know, when you know better, you do better. So sometimes a newness and freshness of perspective that Susanna now brings to the OEB is very healthy, because she will not be beholden and wedded to the way things have been done for a million years. She can come in with a freshness and a liberty to ask, why do we do this? Is this the best way to do it? And it's not to put anyone in defensive, it's to try to find greater efficiency in the work. Likewise, I couldn't agree with Ben more. Learning from our regulators around other jurisdictions, other countries, other locales has been very instrumental in my individual growth as a regulator. And I would also suggest in the ultimate improvement of processes and procedures at the regulatory agencies. If I could also add, one thing that I came to appreciate in nearly 10 years of being a regulator, it's really important for the regulator to get that education, but it's important for stakeholders to do it too. So for those who are in industry, those who are at a utility, even for us at our commission, when I arrived at the state commission, very few staff members were allowed to go to conferences. I think that there was a thinking that it was a boondoggle or some kind of fun trip. We need a top quartile regulatory team to be on the cutting edge, just like the leaders are. They are leading too, and they are the ones that are making these suggestions. Sorry, you hear my doorbell. They are the ones that are making these suggestions to the decision makers and the policy makers. So it's critical also. So yes, the regulator needs to be trained, the staff needs to be trained, but finally bringing that expertise to the OEB. So the OEB, utilizing its convening power, and we were speaking about collaboration and making sure all the boats are rising together. Bring that expertise and talent to you for the benefit of all of the stakeholders. And I think that that will be very helpful in moving along in the integration of greater efficiency and in achieving the mandate that the sector has upon it in a more expeditious fashion.